Welcome, and welcome back, everybody, to the OK Grognard Show. Today is Wednesday, September 10th, 2025, 10 a.m. Central in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. What do we got going today? Today we're going to look at the first edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dungeoneers Survival Guide section on ability and proficiency checks. So ability checks and proficiency checks as outlined in the Dungeoneers Survival Guide. What's up with that? Well, I use them a lot. And I like the explanations they have in here. It's one of the great things you can get from the survival guides. I have told more than one person, I think anybody who DMs should have a copy of each of them. They should read both of them, even if they don't refer to them at the table for every little action and nook and cranny and all the rest of it. Just having it in your head, even if you don't adopt wholesale whatever subsystems they might be describing in various aspects of the game, having in your head the way in which they've described a system to apply to how to adjudicate something gives you one example. It gives you data points. It gives you a way of doing it mentally behind the screen, even if it's not something you necessarily share with the players at the table. They don't have to know how everything works. That's just part of D&D, is for the Dungeon Master to keep calm and roll initiative. Always a good idea. Always a plan. I see Vince himself is in the chat. Lead singer and guitarist of the Maroon Room. He is a prog rock band frontman who just played a gig, I believe, last weekend. About an hour north of here, hour north of Lake Geneva in Wisconsin. And congratulations. It's nice to get out and start moving around. Oh, yeah. Saw a video of the gig. Yeah, they did sound great. Absolutely. That's being spread around. TSW512 in the chat also, along with the Vince himself. And, see, this is how we get fans, right? You just keep putting videos out there every time you guys get out there and play, and everyone will get excited and continue to grow because you're good and people appreciate that. They like what you're putting out there. So what do we got here? We got the Dungeon Master Survival Guide sections on ability checks and proficiency checks. I've got it up on the other screen here. Let me pull up the ability check section and see that it says, on many occasions throughout these rules, characters will be called upon to roll ability checks against one or another of their 7 attributes: strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, charisma, and comeliness. I've never adopted comeliness. I do put my other abilities in that order, though, which is not always the case in other D&D editions that they suggest they go that way. The check will be termed a dexterity check, constitution check, etc., as appropriate to the case at hand. An ability check is rolled on a D20, 1d20. The check is successful if the roll is equal to or less than the ability in question. I've seen some people adopt this, but they do it as roll below your strength, roll below your... It's not how an ability check works. It is, if it is equal to or less than the ability in question, it is successful. For example, a character with a strength of 12 is called upon to make a strength check. He rolls a 14 on a d20, so the check is unsuccessful. And the attempted feat of strength is a failure. Occasionally, an ability check calls for a certain number or combination of dice, as in a 4d6 dexterity check. In this case, substitute the listed dice for the d20. The purpose is to still roll the attribute score or less. Modifiers to the ability score might apply in some instances. So you could say, yeah, take 5 off your roll, and that makes it easier to get under your ability score. So maybe it's a super simple task. Notice the 4d6 is going to be a bell curve, and unlike 3d6, you're not averaging 11 or 12. It's up a little higher. So it's a tougher roll, but a more likely roll, because the bell curve means you'll be closer to the middle number between 4 and 24. So if you've got a high average, say 12, 13 strength, and you roll 46 on a strength check, then you're more likely to roll in the middle. 4 to 20, take off 4, 1 to 20, wind up with a average around 10 or 11, add 4, 14 to 15. So 14 to 15 is the peak of the bell curve of 4d6. But you're less likely to roll to the extremes. And that's how that works. So that's the plan there, right? You got to do those ability checks. I do them a lot. I do them more often than I do proficiency checks, because sometimes it's easier for me to just decide that a particular feat or skill or whatever is being attempted falls under one of those abilities, is more dexterity oriented or more strength oriented or more charisma oriented. So I'll just do an ability check and maybe I'll modify it. But there's all sorts of examples of ways to do that in the Dungeoneers Survival Guide and the Wilderness Survival Guide, based on various abilities. So they're worth checking out. I will say we should take a quick look at the proficiency checks section here. There it is. In addition, in the tradition of the AD&D Oriental Adventures rules, the Dungeoneers Survival Guide presents rules for non-weapon proficiencies. These proficiencies include areas of skill such as weapon making, carpentry, and mining that can augment the PC's adventuring skills. Proficiencies are also presented for such skills as climbing, fighting in the dark, and fire building. The latter categories can actually help a character to survive in the midst of an adventure. In the cases of these adventuring proficiencies, players are often called upon to make proficiency checks. Such checks are made by rolling 1d20 and comparing the result to the character's rating in the given proficiency. Rolls less than the rating are successful. Now notice this one. You're rolling under the rating, and I think this is where some people get confused about ability scores. In this case, you're not meeting or under. Your rolls less than the rating are successful. Although the exact nature of each proficiency is described later, the following rules contain references to proficiency checks. Consult the section on proficiencies to determine the exact details in each case. So there we have a slight variation on it, in that you've got to be under the actual rating. I say that's not necessarily the case. You don't have to do it that way. Now, there is a lot more in this book about proficiency checks, and they can get kind of in the weeds a little bit on some of it, I am going to say that what we will do is come back and do a whole show just on proficiency checks, and perhaps a whole show on non-weapon proficiencies as its own thing. And that way, we're covering all the bases. And let's put her to bed then. Thank you very much in the chat there. I appreciate you popping in. Had a celebrity band singer in the chat, guitarist, who's fantastic. I'm so happy for the recent gig success, and I know you've got another hit coming out real soon, and I'll appreciate sharing that with people when it comes out. So keep it up. You got 3 more this fall, I think you told me. Hope I'm not giving away any secrets. Let's do this. We've been looking at the first edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dungeoneers Survival Guide sections on ability and proficiency checks. We'll get deeper in on those a little later with additional shows and break them out, both proficiency checks, and we'll do a show on non-weapon proficiencies as well. This show streams live on Twitch each Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central, and then it's archived on YouTube. Like, subscribe, follow, do all that fun stuff. Feel free to comment if you got some constructive criticism. It's always very much appreciated. And please do support the channel, even at the free level on Patreon. Join such illustrious individuals as Tom Tullis of Fat Dragon Games, Carlos Lysing of Castle Entertainment, Heath Farndon of the AD&D 20, Dave O'Brien, Unauthorized Users, Death Angel Shadow, Heidi and Eric, Gygax Garland of Gaxland, Vince Ragusa of the Maroon Room, that excellent prog rock band, Daniel Caldwell of Griffin and Gargoyle, Christian Garcia, Stephanie Lesniewski-Gruchow, Cera Toppilopkus, Colin Szablewski, and as always, Shane Bradley, DM Extraordinaire. This has been the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Thanks for listening in. Bye-bye.